In this video, I'll be analyzing this scene from Pulp Fiction, edited by Sally Menke, where John Travolta's character, Vincent, and Uma Thurman's character, Mia, go out to dinner. The scene starts out with this uncomfortableness because the characters are placed in different parts of the frame, and they obviously have different body postures. But if you watch closely through the masterful editing of Sally Menke, she brings them together later in the scene. Now, Vincent isn't trying to be a gentleman. He doesn't let Mia order first. All he's got on his mind is steak. Now, after you just watch this through, you may want to go back and pause the video and take a look at the call-outs that I made about the heuristics and the cutting patterns, because these are the things that an editor like Sally would think about while they're editing this footage. Now, of course, the writers and the directors have a lot to say about how the scene plays out, but the editor gets the final cut on how this scene really comes together and creates the tension and the emotion through these variables.
Did you just order a $5 shake?
You can see here that by Vincent's questioning of Mia's order of the $5 shake, that they were still in opposition, and Sally's editing shows that visually. In this next scene, Mia is chain smoking and she goes to get another cigarette, but then she sees Vincent rolling his own, and then she asks if she can have one of those. This is the moment where Sally brings them closer together in agreement around a cigarette. Up until this point, we've only seen single medium close-ups of both Vincent and Mia, and now we're seeing a close-up of Mia and an over-the-shoulder shot of Vincent lighting Mia's cigarette. For the first time, we see Vincent actually smiling and being a gentleman, and Mia's got a little smile on her face. In this next section, Mia starts a conversation with Vincent about Amsterdam, which he doesn't seem too interested in.
Amsterdam.
Sure did.
How long were you there?
Just over 3 years.
Now, just like in an action movie, Sally is using this Amsterdam dialogue to let the audience breathe a little bit after the tension and the excitement that was in the previous scene around the cigarette. Looking for something to say, Vincent asks Mia about her pilot that she did. Now, an interesting thing happens here in the conversation. For the first time, Vincent doesn't hear her and says, "What?"
It was a show about a team of female secret agents called Fox Force 5.
What?
Fox Force
Now, there
5.
was no reason for Vincent to say what. Now, I think Sally used this almost like a smash cut to get the audience engaged again.
There was a blonde one, Somerset O'Neill. She was a leader.
And as you can see, Mia's tone and the shot framing size increases after this point.
French Fox's speciality was sex.
In the next scene, you'll notice that Sally Menke used a J-cut where she placed the audio of Mia underneath Vincent's looking at her. Now we can see that Mia's character is leaning forward, she's excited, but we can see that Vincent is kind of still laid back and chilled until Mia starts talking about her jokes. And then Vincent leans in and he wants to hear the joke.
I would have told another joke.
You know any of them all jokes?
Now, during this conversation, you'll notice that Sally Menke is using a series of different ways to cut this material together to keep the interest of the viewer. She's using L cuts and J cuts, over-the-shoulder shots, not over-the-shoulder shots, and also the interruptions by the waiter. Now here, Sally uses a series of eye-line matches and cuts on action to bring some interest back into the scene. Now, after this interruption, and Mia's got her shake, guess who wants to have a sip of it? The guy that was against the $5 shake now wants to try it. Now, an interesting thing to notice here, what happens is both characters are placed in the middle of the frame, and they're both close-up shots, which means that they are in agreement. Unlike in the beginning, where they are on opposite ends of the frame and they are in opposition. This is the brilliance of Sally Menke in this edit. So here we see a little smile on Mia's face, knowing that she won the battle over the milkshake.
$5 was pretty fucking good.
I hope you enjoyed learning from the great Sally Menke as I did, and how to cut together a dialogue scene so it flows so well that you don't notice the cuts.